the Rural Dividend Fund. And you can apply for, I believe, up to $1 million for the building within that. And then we also received a $20,000 grant from XCPC to continue working with our consultant, Glenn Stolte, which that work will start in December or so. And that $20,000, 19,000 of it, 500 goes to Mike. 500 of it goes towards food for hosting a community meeting to report back on our findings. So we'll have some other community meetings during the process of the consulting. And the title of the grant, or like the business plan for that, is the Salmo Valley Cultural Tourism Plan, which was the title XCPC recommended to us to use because it best fit their premise. But the idea is that we will come up with a proper professional business plan for all of the activities that we're doing at the church.
So I'm just going to ask, do you guys have any questions?
I covered my question I had written down about other projects.
Councillor Limbs, do you have any questions for our delegation?
No, thank you.
I just have one question. You said Area G art. Is there no Salmo art?
We are the Salmo District Arts Council. We cover all of Area G.
I know, but you said in the baskets were just Area G art.
Well, Area G including Salmo.
Oh, okay. I was thinking,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
I was
it's
thinking,
just as,
just Area G.
yeah, no, all of Salmo Valley.
Well, thank you so much for that. Yeah, we look forward to all your guys' you guys are rocking.
Awesome. I can't wait to leave when you guys come.
So you're welcome to stay if you want for the agenda.
I can stay. I can't stay.
Yeah. That's cool in here.
Yeah, we've always air conditioning.
We'll move on to new business. Single barrel safe garbage cans at tennis courts in Big Rock area. This was in front of us, and the motion had stated that we direct staff to bring back some information. So the information is back in front of us. Any questions? Yes.
Do you confirm if there was already a garbage can at the tennis courts, or?
I can tell you that I went and looked because I was down at a friend's, and the garbage can that's at the tennis court is the one that was at the pool. So somebody picked it up and took it over there because the pool wasn't open.
Supplementary?
Yes.
And my other question would be again about if we are going to install a bear-proof garbage can that's like a more permanent structure there, just having a conversation with SDA since it's their property, making sure that happens.
Yeah. Do you have any questions?
No.
Councillor Limbs?
No, thank you.
Okay. The staff be directed to purchase 2 single bear safe garbage cans and council approve using up to $9,000 from the community development funds based on actual costs.
I'll second.
Councillor Fox, Councillor McNeil. Any debate over it? All in favor?
In favor.
4th Street repair, road repair. So does everybody understand where this is? If this is St. Cole over by KP Park? Yeah. Anybody have any questions before we move forward on the motion? I just have a question. Why do we think that we're going to need $5,000 more?
It's the contractor noted that we don't have any data on the substrate material underneath, so it's not so much that they're thinking it's going to take longer. If the culvert's down there, it's not filled in and it's additional fill, we didn't want to have to stop and come back to council and hold up the project or fill it back in. And so, it was just on the thought of the contractor that, they're doing it as an hourly or like as a small project, but just feeling that there needed to be that contingency without knowing what's in there.
This is not the first time it's been fixed. So that's the only reason I was asking is because it wasn't fixed properly the first time. So that's why I was.
But that's the problem. Sometimes though, if there's culverts down there and they don't get exposed properly, then as soon as they fill it back in, it sinks again.
That an additional $5,000 be allocated to the 4th Street road repair for a total project cost of $13,500 and gas tax funds to be used for the additional funding, and further that a financial plan bylaw amendment be prepared to reflect this additional capital expense.
Second.
Should we change the word gas tax fund to what it's called now? I know.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, but I can change it to Canada Community Building.
Okay. Any other questions, Councillor Lenz?
No questions, thanks.
No other questions? All in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
Third. Okay, now we'll go on to the water restriction. So the water restriction was that we just did it, that everybody can water morning and evenings. Now we're into what they classify as stage 2. So they are asking for us to go to odd civic addresses on odd days of the month and even civic addresses on even days of the month, which we were that last year and the year before. Any questions on that?
I thought
What's her
that's
name?
why we did the hours in the morning and the hours in the evening, so we didn't have to do that.
Now, apparently it's always been, and I've got the posters from the last year and the year before, that the first stage was just that morning and afternoon, and then the next level is morning and evening as well, but now only on alternating days. It's just a more dramatic.
It's just a stage 2. We were at stage 1, now it's at stage 2.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Neil, did you have?
Same.
Okay.
I'll move.
Okay.
Second.
Any more debate on that? Hearing none, all in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
Canada Community Building Fund, would you like to speak on that one?
Yeah, so we just received the new agreement for the Canada Community Building Fund Agreement, which is the old gas tax. So they've just renegotiated with the federal government. So these are the funds that we get annually that we don't actually have to apply for, but we have to report out on them. And one of their requirements is that we pass the resolution that I included on that piece of paper that I handed out that I don't have there, but that the mayor and corporate office to be authorized to sign the Canada Canadian Building Fund Agreement on behalf of the Village of Salmo. And it's just a standard agreement for every municipality.
I'll move. Second.
Any, Councillor Neil and Councillor Cox moved it. Any questions?
No, thank you.
All in favor?
In favor.
Carried.
In favor.
The draft minutes of the council meeting 10/24, Tuesday, June 25th, 2024 be adopted as presented.
Almost.
Any questions on those minutes?
No, thank you.
All in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
Carried. Referrals from delegation. So this was about the burial liner. After reading the information that was put in front of us, I don't think that we have a complete, maybe a complete story of how this can happen, or if it does happen in the province, as the delegation did tell us that it was happening. So I'm wondering if, would you like to speak a little bit on it, or I'm gonna ask her to go back to staff for more information, but I'll let the CAO speak.
Yeah, as you know, right now we have limited time to do the research we need to do on these items. I have very limited time, and Brandy's starting to do more. She did reach out to a number of municipalities, some that are listed in here and some that are not, and is finding out that consistently that traditionally that liners are required because of the maintenance that's with definitely, it's definitely a thing. But we understand from the delegation that perhaps they may know of municipalities that aren't requiring them, and that staff did not look into, like they didn't get a reference that they could phone. They just were not able to find one. So if you wanted it to go back, then yeah, certainly we can do further, knowing that their workloads are very high right now. But if it's something that you want more work done on, then they can.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I did look into it a little bit, and I did see that Vancouver does do the green burials at their cemetery, and I think it's interesting. However, I also would want to be kind of cautious and see. It talks about the different soil types and how some soils are more prone to sinking and that sort of thing. So I think it would be neat if we were able to have some different options, but also would like to have a little bit more kind of research and that sort of thing. I also noticed when I was looking at this that lots of other cemeteries have like a double burial option where they like, if two people wanted one plot, they do like an 8-foot and a 6-foot burial. And that would be space saving as well, which might be something that is worth looking into at some point. Obviously, I know priority is
Cemetery.
it's not that right now, but I found that interesting and thought that might be a good thing to look into as well. And then on a just kind of housekeeping note, when I was looking at our cemetery bylaw, when I clicked on the link from our webpage, at the top tab, it went to the village, it was titled Village of Caslow for some reason.
Oh,
So, yeah.
that's how we find, is when we start looking at our own website.
I'm fine with the recommendation. If you guys need more information, I'm fine with that too. So,
Councillor Lins, do you have anything to add?
I'm hesitant. I mean, I would like maybe more information. I'm hesitant to put any more work on our civic works with the cemetery, especially with it being on that slope. I'm worried about it sloughing. So maybe some more information would help. I'm not sure.
So can we table this? Can we just send it back to staff for more information?
You can table it and direct staff to research further.
A low priority on their workload.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a while.
I don't think it's a rush.
Yeah.
The matter of burial liners for casket burials be tabled to a future meeting, and staff be directed to do additional research.
Yeah, with cost implications. Like, there's so much more. Yeah, there's so much more. Because maybe everything would be okay, but it might be $10,000 to do that.
Yeah, I mean, if it does sink, it's not much quantitative stuff they can do, but there's probably ways of working around that if some of the bigger centers. But I think you'll find generally that the smaller places can't do it just because they don't have the sophistication that the bigger places have to avoid it. But yeah,
Okay,
Thing to move that.
Yeah.
oh, we did
Make that motion.
sorry, Counselor, no. I can, I'll second. All to table, all in favor?
In favor.
Carried. Okay, so June 11th, 2024, indoor rock climbing wall at the Salmo Valley Community Center. Would you like to speak on that?
Yeah, so we did review the lease agreement, which has some lack of clarification in it, but more than anything right now, they just need to get more details on what their agreement's going to look like between the indoor climbing wall group and the Salmo Valley Youth and Community Center. You know, whether or not they're going to be a separate society, and if that's going to be considered subletting, or if they're just partnering and providing like if it's all running through the ultimately just running through the youth center, then consent wouldn't be required. If it was actually an agreement between the two of them, then it would be. We have to make sure, if we are providing consent, that there's all the liability insurance is in place, and also they told us a little bit about their construction, but not enough to know whether or not it would be considered modifications to the structure of the building where we would need to give consent. So I have proposed that if council is actually in favor of it going ahead, if all the boxes are ticked, then you could delegate authority to your CAO to provide consent once all of the information is provided. And that way it won't hold up the process if it's before our late August council meeting, but it wouldn't be granted if all the ducks weren't in a row.
I'll second. I'm happy to support that.
Counselor Cox, Counselor Neal, do you have any questions, anyone? All in favor?
In favor.
Okay, referrals from prior meetings, no. Policy bylaw and review, no. Bylaw development review, the rezoning application at 740 David Avenue. Any questions before we move on to the?
No questions, but I can comments. I drove by, it's on a dirt road right at the back. So if there's going to be a lane or a additional secondary unit, that's probably a good spot there.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I'm a little bit uncomfortable with this process that we're taking here with bringing a recommendation to council to prepare first reading, because when you receive an application, council needs to consider it, and that usually comes with the consideration of first reading. So generally, this is brought as information at this point in time without sort of opinions, and it's sort of a heads up that it's coming forward with all the data for you to consider, because of course, when you consider it, you're also going to have to consider other ones of the similar type and the impact on our water systems and our water usage, etc. So it's again, there's a lot of moving parts right now, and this is how the planner did it. But just if it seemed odd to you to be just bringing this forward and then saying, now we're going to bring it forward for you to consider, that's why it's more of a heads up that it's coming next council meeting.
Counselor Vance, do you have anything to add?
Not really to add. I just feel like I haven't had enough time to really figure out exactly what they're asking there. And
yeah, and that's what I kind of say that's actually better, because it's not, you shouldn't be considering it now. You should be considering it at the next meeting, where we can have a little bit more time and actually show the implications of it all and what they'd be doing.
okay, thank Thank you.
So by passing that motion today, I mean, you don't well, I guess what I'm trying to say is you don't really have a choice. You've got an application. It needs to be fully, considered. And if council wants to deny it, you'll deny it at that next reading.
Right. So the one thing, did you have something else? The one thing that I have is we just talked about water and regulations and the lack of possibility of water. And we've put out for secondary homes that we haven't seen an uptake on it. And without knowing exactly how that's going to affect when we're already at stage 2 and we had a very wet June.
Well, I'm not so sure that, I think they've just noted that there's a great deal of water usage. I don't think there's any indication. I think in Salmo's case, it's more the limits on our license than it is the fear of the water. They're just noticing that the water is, the water usage spiked with this high heat, so it's the prudent thing to do. But unlike some places, there certainly has been enough time to see a decrease in the water. But it's what we're going to talk about more coming up is the limitations on our licensing for water and whether that has to be addressed before you can put more onto it.
So is it the wise thing then to hold off on this one until we get to talk about water licensing?
It's an application, and with rezoning, you need to process the application.
No, I realize that, but as you said, this normally wouldn't be in front of us.
It would come with first reading attached right away. Like it would be in front of you for sure. It just wouldn't, at this point in time, it's your decision. It's not really a decision that you're making that it comes forward for consideration, right? It's really telling you that.
Yes. Okay, so then we'll do first reading.
You'll consider first reading next council meeting.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, that's what you'll do. You'll consider whether or not to proceed with first reading or deny first reading at the next
At the
council.
next council.
Yeah.
That staff be directed to prepare a zoning amendment bylaw to allow for additional dwelling unit at 740 Davies Avenue to be brought forward for consideration of first reading at the next regular council meeting.
I'll move.
Second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
In favor.
Carried. Accounts payable that council, any questions on accounts payable first? The council will receive for information a list of accounts payable checks and electronic fund transfers from June 21st, 2024 to July 4th, 2024, totaling $68,672.81. Councillor Cox.
I'll second.
Councillor Neal. Any, all in favor?
In favor.
Carried. Correspondence requiring a council decision. Kaylee Orgy, I don't know if I said that right at all. Orgy. I don't know. Salmo Valley Farmers Market, mobile vendors at market. Anybody have any questions on that?
I was just going to the staff recommendation, the difference between 4.1 and 4.2 is that 4.1 is on trial, this, a trial basis. So.
Yeah, sorry, I had, I was away for the finalization of this, so.
Did you have any?
And then I was just wondering about, will they have to have, like, when we did the July 1st, they still had to do the business license of some kind. Would they fall solely under the farmers market, or would they still have to do that kind of business license?
The way that your bylaw is written, when there's a farmer's market, the vendors fall under the farmer's market permit. So there's different ways of doing it, but if they're organizing it, that's what, until you do any kind of amendment, that's what it would fall under.
Okay.
I think that we talked about this earlier, that, overall, mobile food vendors in a place, you really have to look at what the fee structure is. It's different when it's in events, but at this point in time, it would fall under the farmer's market.
Councillor Lenz, do you have anything?
No, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna speak against it, and the reason is that, I'm thinking of our businesses in our community, that every single organization goes to our businesses for support, to donate stuff, to do this, to do that. Businesses actually pay a hefty tax in order to keep our community going. And when we take away, I would like to hear from businesses if they think that it would be an effect on them, in order to do it. The Arts Council, again, is going to start something that will hopefully draw some people. I know that it's not starting until September, which is too bad because it was going to start in June. So it would have been something else.
It'll go all summer next year though.
Yeah. So, and we do have, it is a new person that is running the, farmer's market, this year. And I would like to actually hear from businesses that, because as a council, with us passing this and going forward with this, it said to me, that I think the business would think that this council is not for them to be, without having some kind of a fee structure around it. And we don't have that in any of our stuff. So I'm gonna vote against it. Anybody else?
May I say something?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what the difference would be. Like Kaylee herself actually does donuts and everything at the farmer's market. There's been people there that make tacos and like other vendors that make food. What would the difference be between the vendor that makes tacos and, say, just a food truck that pulls in? Like, what? I don't understand what the difference would be. They'd both be making food at the farmer's market, and they'd both be covered under the farmer's market special event thing. So why do we allow someone the difference being one's under a tent and the other one is in a truck or in a trailer? Like, I don't understand why we wouldn't allow a food truck to come in when we allow someone to put up a tent and make tacos.
So 3 years, or it might have been more, it might have been before COVID, I'm not sure. I don't remember. The biggest little fruit stand used to come into the farmer's market, and both grocery stores complained because he brought in fruits and vegetables that he did not make, bake, or grow, because that's normally what a farmer's market is about. And he was bringing in meat, he was bringing in fruits and vegetables, and there was something else that he brought in. Anyways, he was classified as an actual business, not as a farmer's market.
Fair, but that's not what I'm comparing the food truck to.
And he was asked to leave the farmer's market. It was my point that I was trying to make.
No, sorry for cutting you off. I know that he was asked to leave, but I'm just like, last year there was a booth there that was making tacos or something similar to that. Like, I've eaten at those booths and they're not always there, just sometimes. So I don't understand why we wouldn't allow a food truck. They're actually, like, they have to follow some codes for cleanliness and everything, whereas someone just making tacos out of a booth doesn't have to have any licenses. If you see what I mean?
I'm just going with what a farmer's market normally would be, but everybody can have their, I spoke what mine was.
Mm-hmm, yeah. I'm in favor of it. I guess it comes down to that. So at least giving it a try.
I would say 4.1 for staff recommendation where it has a trial basis. We can always take it away if it's problematic.
I am not tax person. No, but,
Yeah, I would second what that one.
That's how you want to do it. Sorry.
Or whatever.
So you put the motion on this one? I
4.1.
I don't have a full one.
Well, it's 4.1 in it's.
Oh, that's what it is, okay. Okay. And Councillor Neal. Any more debate on that? So this is that the two food truck vendors. So my debate is who's going to determine the two food truck vendors? So what happens if 4 people apply? Does the same 2 food truck vendors get to come?
So can I?
Wouldn't there?
So all we're going to say to the farmers market is that you're allowed to have 2 food truck vendors for the 2024 period of time on a trial basis this year, and we'll reconsider after this. That's the extent of council's business when it's,
Right.
when you're saying that you're the manager of the truck. They can decide how they're doing it as far as the food truck goes. But we're not saying we're managing the food trucks as we did in Canada Day. This is under the umbrella of the farmers market.
All in favor?
Of, sorry, in favor of 4.1?
Correct.
Is that
Yeah.
what we're voting on? Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
I'm in favor, yes.
And I'm opposed, and that's going to be reported as opposed. Salmo area supportive housing, read the 100% permissive tax exemption. Do you like to speak on that?
Sure. Again, this one, although I had the opportunity to speak with staff and sort of begin to talk about how we would handle these, I didn't fully understand. I actually thought that there was some kind of report along with it. And then I realized that, you know, the deadline has just recently closed for all the rest of the applications, and none of this should be considered until you're doing it holistically, and that with a fulsome report, staff report that's showing the impacts, showing what you had decided last year, so that you can follow through with that, any of the requested changes, etc. So at the, hopefully the August meeting, but still potentially the early September meeting, we would have all of the applications that are just coming in now. This request would be included with that, because there's a lot to consider with permissive tax exemptions. And in a perfect world last year, when you had decided to do the 100, the 75 and the 50, in a perfect world, your bylaw should have been written for that decision for the 3-year period then and there. Then you wouldn't have to get applications every year if that's what your decision was. So there's lots to consider. So I recommend that you table this one to include it with the permissive tax exemption subject in the upcoming meeting. October 31st is a deadline to get it to BC assessment. So there's time in there to do the advertising and et cetera.
I think it's always been done that way. And you can post stuff that if you want to.
Yeah.
Better than having a choice.
Yeah.
I would like to comment about property tax exemptions. So I decided to read some of the stuff, and I was looking at the bylaws, and I noticed that for 2023, we have 2 property tax exemption bylaws, 751 and 745, and they're both named the same thing. And 751 clearly states that it should be tax exemption bylaw 751 2024, because every year prior there's only been 1 tax exemption document. So, so if I could find that page. Yeah, so I'm wondering if that should be 2024.
So there are years that you have 2 or 3 or 4 permissive tax exemption bylaws, and they're all named the same thing. Like, it's not uncommon, because sometimes you do multi-year ones and then single ones, and then rather than putting it all in one, so it's not unusual to have more than one. It's not perfect best practices, but I don't know. So it's 751 and
7:45.
745, yeah.
are they the same organizations listed in it?
Yes, yeah, sure.
Oh, my goodness.
And so one was done on September 26, 2023, and the other was, so you got Hess, well, these, so I think we only have one here.
Yeah, this,
So what happens is, and so what happens is, like, the question that staff would ask would be, when we're doing a permissive tax exemption now, is the title, because we'll do it in September, is the title permissive tax exemption 2024? Even though,
Yeah,
yeah, so that's what she's talking about.
yeah, no, right.
That's what she's talking about, is that's correct. That's correct.
This one. So like, I don't know, just take a look. They both say the same thing. I don't know, or it just said that half the staff of it.
yeah, if I can finish what I was saying.
Yeah.
The question is always that, do you name it the year of the, so this is right, so, the year that you're passing the resolution, or are you doing it the year of when the, yeah, so if this is 745, this was 2023, this is 751, it was 2024.
Exactly.
So that is correct, these are correct.
Well, no, it only says, it says 2023 for the one that you call 2024. I'm just,
Oh, that's what she's saying.
Oh, on this sheet here.
In the list,
Oh, right, and that's,
that should be.
no, that's, yeah, okay, that's,
this.
That's what,
You guys can look at it.
yeah, and it's getting down to consistent, so these were passed in 2022,
Yeah,
and they're called bylaw 745, 2023,
correct.
right? And these were passed in 2023, and they're called the bylaw is called 2024.
Yeah, so like that's, should be two.
yeah,
Yeah,
so in the list of,
in the list, I'll make a note of, because neither one of these are correct, because this is actually the one that these two are done incorrectly, because the date is a date when they're passed. If it's going to say the year, it has to be at the beginning, like 2024 tax exemption bylaw 745, 2023.
right,
So both, that's the proper way of doing it, is to not, I mean, like, of putting, this is the actual date of when you considered it.
Okay, so then it should be, the other one then should be 22 then.
Yeah, like this one here was in effect for 2023. This one was passed in 2022, looking ahead to 2023.
Okay,
So, and that's probably what it says there. It probably says 745, 2023 permissive tax exemptions
yeah, it says, 2023, commercial tax, yeah.
for 745. That, because it means it's the list of all the tax exemptions for 2023. This one here that was actually considered in 2023, but was for this year, 2024. But there it should say 2024 permissive tax exemptions,
Right, yeah,
and it says something else.
2022.
2022.
That's the mistake. That is this one that's wrong. Okay.
And then I just wanted to go over like the permissive tax exemption policy. So there's a few things in there, and especially the last paragraph when it talks about affordable rental housing. Specific projects reviewed by council will be considered for exemption upon completion. The exemptions will be for a period not to exceed 10 years in length. So I'm thinking, and I don't know how council feels, but like in the community charter, it's very clear that the exemptions that will be for a period not to exceed 10 years apply to all the nonprofits with the exception of exceptions. So I'm wondering if that should be put in as a background 1.4 and just use the wording that's in the community charter, or because it should be for more than just affordable rental housing. I'm just trying to get a distinction there. Do you understand what I mean? So,
I'm going to take a jab at what I think that you're trying, is that you're thinking that affordable housing wording should come out, and it should apply to everything.
pretty much, yeah.
So,
Not all of it, just
but when we look at exemption, tax exemption, and we look at, I'll use the youth center, it is available for the entire community. Where affordable housing is only available for a small part of the community, only certain people. Right?
however, yes.
And it says 10 years to be able to help get housing going. And if we keep giving exemption on all housing, then we wouldn't bring taxes in.
I think I can explain a little bit too. I think probably normally when you develop a policy, and I haven't yet written this one, but when you're developing a permissive tax exemption policy, you try to look at your strategic priorities. And rather than being broad, like the community charter is, and saying this is everything that council's allowed to exempt, it tries to nail it down and say affordable housing is one of our priorities, or this or that, of service that, and it tries to limit it a little bit more, and tries to be specific. And like I said, I haven't looked at this one, but that's generally the thought when policy, to encourage, to give some guidance rather than just saying like they used to, where if you're nonprofit, you can be assured you're going to get a permissive tax. They're trying to focus it now.
So can YCC or the Legion, would they be able to get a 10-year tax exemption if they, under certain conditions?
The council's it's your policy, and policies are overridden by resolution, not like a bylaw that takes a step. So it completely 100%. Anyone who applies would come to council. The report that you get from us say, here's whether or not it conforms to your policy, here's what recommendations. But council may very well say at that time, but we want, this is an important service to the community. Back to what the mayor had said, may want to say, if this service wasn't being offered by this group, we would be offering it as a community ourselves. So yes, we want to do it. But it's not particularly wise to do 10-year policies. Other than well-established something, where it's a service, and that's why it's sort of saying, keeping it really, because 10 years, it's a long time. You tend not to be reviewing, are they still operating to their mandate and things. Usually you'll see more like 3 years, like a council cycle.
So we usually do just 1 year, most of them. But for me, I'm just saying, what happens if, athletics and recreation and the YCC, if they have some project and they needed it for 10 years, like if they were adding an addition or they're doing a new building or something.
And they want some certainty.
And they want to know it's like it's not available.
Right. You certainly council could easily pass it at that point. Again, you can't fetter a future council's decision making. So even if you pass a bylaw, they just have to rescind the bylaw. So it can send the wrong message, because it can send a message that you're going to have it for 10 years. A new council could come in and say, this is against what we're thinking. So you have to be careful. Whereas if you do it for the term of a council, you can be pretty much assured that if you're committed to providing it and you've talked it out, then it's going to be. And so there's all of that. I think if the report that we try to bring forward will raise all of those points, and then and then,
I don't need it in there, but I mean, if you, like, I'm just saying, if you don't want to do anything for 10 years, you don't even have to have it in there because it's actually included in the charter.
that's right, you don't, and that was put in there to limit, I think, more than to, it was in there to say, we're not going to entertain our right to do 10 years, except maybe for affordable housing, we might, because that was the focus then, and that we were trying to,
Okay, then the second question is, talks about specific projects reviewed by council will be considered for exemption upon completion. But when an affordable housing moves forward and goes through the application process, the granting process, it's required for them to have village support prior to when they begin. And so I'm wondering if this is restricting the big, I mean, if somebody was taking it to the letter, there would be no affordable rental housing.
From what I'm hearing that saying, it's that you can say, you can indicate prior to when they're finished that you are going to give them a permissive tax exemption. So that's saying that approval can be given in advance. That's how I read it. That's how I hear it.
Specific projects reviewed by council will be considered for exemptions upon completion,
Right.
not prior to.
I think will be considered for, I still hear that as saying you'll consider it beforehand and then upon completion.
Is that how you guys feel?
Yeah.
Okay. Because like, I know that that's what it's used for. I mean, when there's somebody starting a new business.
But mostly affordable housing projects now have a whole separate classification. And so they don't necessarily need permissive tax exemptions because their rate is so low. Like there's a whole separate
Yeah, they get covenants with UCSS and things like that.
Yeah, and class 3 or whatever that new classification for supportive housing is. So,
Right.
Yeah. So more to come on that at when we bring all of them forward.
Okay.
Okay, so
Do you want us to make a motion to table that till?
I think it would be good to have it on. Yeah.
I'll make the motion to table, whatever,
11 to
11 to,
the August meeting.
or to when the rest of the permissive tax.
It needs
Right.
to be the August, so we have time to advertise and, right?
Oh, I thought maybe the first one in September or August. I haven't done the counting yet, but I would just say.
The other.
Yeah, because you may have a special meeting, Usually permissive tax exemptions are very difficult to do at a regular council meeting because there's usually, it's pretty big discussion usually, but,
So do you want a certain date? Thank you. So far.
no, because we know it
Just no date, table it for the.
to table to bring forward with, all PT, with 2025 PTT applications.
Okay.
Did we have a?
I'm currently on Councilor Cox.
Guess I couldn't guess. One had 50% chance pretty much.
Okay, and there's no debate on tabling, all in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
Community grant application, Salmo District Arts Council. Is there any questions before we go on to the application? William?
I had just made a note about how people got into the draw, but, Cheryl answered that earlier, so I know.
Councilor Cox, any questions? Councilor Lins, do you have any questions?
No, I don't think so. Thank you.
Okay. The request for the community grant in the amount of $300 be approved for the Salmo District Arts Council by local project. Okay. Councilor Cox, Councilor Yam. And the budget for the community grants is 500, That's all that's left? $500?
No, just meaning each request, I think. Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't write.
That usually they have in there what's left in our thing, but it could be that there's only $500 left. All in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
Attendance at UBCM convention, September 16th to the 20th, 2024.
So, and again, I didn't get a report on this, but your policy allows one counselor to attend UBCM and over and above the RDCK representative, the mayor in this case. And it's coming up, and registration, I think, is probably open. And just affirming whether or not anybody from council is planning to attend this year or wanting to attend this year. And if so, there's also a Municipal Insurance Association alternate that we need to appoint at the same time. So
Where is it this year?
Vancouver. And accommodations will be very difficult at this point in time because usually you decide the year before, but I know it's difficult with people's work schedules and usually there's accommodation that comes open, but
This is over the weekend?
it's during the week. Most people will get there Sunday night or Monday night depending, and then leave on Friday morning.
I would be interested if nobody else is.
What, sorry, you got cut off there, Councillor Linz.
I said I would be interested in going if nobody else is.
Anybody else?
If it wasn't during the week,
It's always,
Yeah.
UBCM is always during the week.
I gotta work.
Yeah, I'm not available.
So do you want to add that name? I don't know. Do we want to add Councillor Healy also? I know that,
Well, it's on the agenda.
yeah, you would have, yeah. So do you want to add that Councillor Lenz's name?
Well, that's for you to all decide.
Yeah. Should
That you
we,
have to vote on it. You would say, your two resolutions would be that, I have them written out here, that Councillor Linz, be appointed to, that Councillor Linz be appointed, that Councillor Linz attends the 2024 UBCM convention to be held in Vancouver with travel.
what?
And further that Councillor Linz be appointed as the MIABC alternative representative. Yeah.
Councillor Neil.
Question. I know that you said that it's in our bylaw that we're able to send a counselor as well. Did we put that in our budget?
There's $2,500 in the budget for UBCM attendance. That's probably a potentially slightly low with registration, accommodation. The accommodation's never very inexpensive there and travel, but it's within reason. It's usually probably about $3,000. But it was for at UBCM, so it was unfortunate it didn't get caught. But it was so it's work that like one counselor was allowed to go per year.
Just a question. So you said that you'd be able to find accommodation or you won't be able to find accommodation?
Generally what happens if there isn't any, right around now, different municipalities start to put out word that they have, because you have to book and pay for them so far in advance, and then a counselor drops out, and then we've got this extra room, so they move it over to them. So we could I know that AKBLG sometimes gets notified of rooms, and then is like the clearinghouse kind of thing. So, yeah.
So I know that, and I'll use Cascar. Cascar did not book through the RDCK last year, and they were a block and a half away because there was just nothing available, right? They just.
Yeah, and I know Fruitvale was not giving away, but Fruitvale had, I think, 2 seats available right up to the last minute last time. So it all depends, but.
The motion?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that Councillor Linz attend UBCM in addition to the mayor, as well as being the, what is that?
And I don't think we'd say in addition to the mayor, because the mayor is going on through regional district, correct?
Yeah.
Attend in 2024. Do you normally include in your motions and be reimbursed per travel policy? You just understand that? That was just,
We have the poll. like,
that's right. We don't need to say it. Attend 2024 UBC in Vancouver, and further that, no, we do a separate one that Councillor Evans be appointed as the MIABC alternative director or representative.
I'll move.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
In favor.
Okay, correspondence for information, there is none. Reports, Councillor Cox.
I've been talking to a couple of residents and they were saying that that lunch that was prepared by the community services with Helen, I think you were there too.
The lines prepared.
Yeah, the Lions prepared it. Yeah, you were there. There were some comments that some of the people that were in the kitchen didn't feel well because of the odors and the smells and stuff. You didn't get that? Because that's what I was told.
I was one of them in the,
Yeah.
there's only three of us.
Who was the other two?
My husband and Keith.
So it's misinformation.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's, there's lots of crews. It's gonna be a new, different building. Councillor Lenz.
No real report, just I feel like July 1st went off well, and I think our staff did a very good job of organizing and getting everything running and looking after it all. So very pleased. And thanks everyone for your volunteering and whatever you did there. That's great. Thank you.
Councillor Neal.
Hearing lots of great feedback from having the pool back up and running and having adequate lifeguard coverage, and everybody's loving having that resource back in our community. That's great, especially with this heat.
I just wanted, anybody have any questions on it? The one thing, just so council is aware, the CEO and I were discussing about thanking the people that put forward all the efforts in that for July 1st. That just to reiterate to you guys is I make sure that I do put that in the report for that goes in the paper, but not until September, obviously, because we don't have a paper. Other than that, I don't know. There was interest out there in the community that building the society back again. That heard over the weekend is people interested? That they, and I said, well, it's kind of like the pool. You had volunteers doing that. They got burnt out. They didn't want to do it anymore. It went to government, and you had 5 years to build another group, and you never did. So if you guys want, go ahead. Work with the village. I think that where it all came from in the first place is that there was some things that were being missed. So that was my own feedback. That other than that's that the verbal and written report. Sorry, did you want me to?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, maybe we could do like a Facebook post, thanking everybody.
That was, apparently that was the, apparently, Elena did that,
Right.
right, immediately after to make sure that she.
Perfect, right, just so it wasn't so far away.
Yeah. Elena was on that first day.
Yeah.
And she thanked everyone, not just a couple people in particular. So it was great that she did. Thank you.
Okay, that the verbal and written reports from mayor and council be received for information.
Second.
Councillor Neal, Councillor Cox. All in favor?
In favor.
In favor.
Great. Question time. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm curious if the farmer's market rules have changed because I've been to pizza out of a food truck for years at the farmer's market. And so like, I'm just curious if we were doing it out.
that it had to be make, bake, or grow. So you had to make it, you had to bake it, you had to grow it.
We were making and baking on site
Yeah.
out of a food truck.
Yeah, but I think it was, and you maybe ask them, if you know the lady, ask her
Yeah.
to look at the insurance. That's one of the reasons that
Yeah, I'm
it's
just
from,
from the community. It started when we were selling pizza from there, like we had a food truck at Cape Park.
yeah. So now it falls under the village's insurance,
Yeah,
where that's why it moved from the community services.
yeah,
Is because it was falling under their insurance, because there was more than make, bake, or grill.
yeah.
So, for it to be a true farmer's market and be under their insurance.
A different interpretation by different councils.
No, that was their interpretation.
But like, it doesn't really matter to me, but I just, like, before COVID, there were food trucks at the farmers market.
Yeah. And it's under the village insurance. It's not under the farmer's market insurance.
And
That's
5 years ago, it was under the farmers market insurance.
they assumed it was under the farmer's market insurance when they found out that it wasn't, because it wasn't a make, bake, or grow. That's when they asked them to move, and that's
Yeah.
when they tried to get it on to Main Street, then
Yeah.
it ended up down to KP Park, and then they tried back to Main Street, so yeah.
And then I have a more relevant question to me. That was just like curiosity. For me, like, I'll come do a proposal at the next meeting, which I hear is late August.
Yeah.
And now it sounds like if I'm requesting a variance to zoning or to setbacks or anything like that, it will take 2 meetings, like one where I'm proposing it to council, and then the voting will be at the next one. Like, because we know that we're going to request a setback variance from the street, because right now it's a 7.5 meter variance, and we're going to request that we're allowed to have a sales gallery. So we have to be requesting a commercial zoning variance.
So I think that's exactly why we can't answer that question in something like this. Staff has to review it.
Yeah.
If it was simply a variance and not a rezone, then it's not, then it can be done quickly, but there's advertising that's required. So then it has to go to the public. And if it's a development permit, it all depends on exactly what it
I'm
is.
just curious about the time frames around it, because as you were speaking to the funding bodies liking it, if you have confirmation of approval, like I have $1 million worth of grants to apply for in October.
Right.
And so I'm just trying to figure out how I need to time things.
But that's Jessica's the
Yeah.
one to talk to, and Trish and myself. And because it all depends on the legislation. Some of it's but some of it is out of council's hands. Right now, we don't have a council, so it depends on that. That's why it's impossible to answer here until we see the
But it's
application.
probably safe for me to assume it'll take that late August meeting and the first September
I
meeting.
don't think it's going to be the council meetings that,
Okay.
I think it's going to be the advertising and the legislative requirements that way. If it's only a variance, it's one council meeting.
Okay. And if it's a zoning bylaw,
Then it's far more than one council meeting. It's probably doesn't take a public hearing anymore, but there's lots of legislation. Sometimes it can be 4 meetings because it's a bylaw adoption. So it could be first, second, third, and fourth. unless they do it all together. But they'll know that when you're talking to that, to
And
the
when
staff.
is your next meeting?
The fourth Tuesday in August.
All right, because I don't think that there will be 4 meetings between the
Yeah,
fourth Tuesday in August and October.
Yeah, this is our last meeting for the summer.
Yeah, that's what I'm gathering.
yeah. So yeah, the sooner you can talk to staff, the better.
Yeah,
And,
I've already talked to Jessica and you'll hear from Jessica.
Right.
Other requests of mine
Right,
this
okay.
next week or.
Right, on Thursday morning.
August 27th.
Okay.
Okay. And if I need to do a delegation of that, can I do it via your Google Teams or whatever, or Microsoft Teams, whatever you're doing?
It's always better to do it in person, but you can't.
I think I will be in Saskatoon
Oh,
August 27th, so.
then that would be hard to do it in person. Yeah.
All right, I think that that's everything. This is surprisingly fun.
Okay, we're gonna have you step out and we're gonna go into camera, in camera.
Well,
Thank you very much.
thank you for having me.